configure a boot from Iscsi in 5 steps, and we'll be doing it in Cisco UCS using Cisco Bitcard. It is expected that the audience has some background on Cisco UCS. This is not going to be a ground up session. You have many videos on the YouTube or Cisco website. You can find how to configure the basic configurations. This is just an add-on for Iscsi boot only. And in total, it should be around 30 minutes time. So step 1, those who have worked with Cisco UCS, you know that UCS works on pools, policies, templates. So the steps will go through like first pools, then the policies, and then the templates, unique templates, and service profile templates, so on. In addition to the normal pools that you do on Cisco UCS, additional 2 pools needs to be created. One is Iscsi initiator pool. Other one is IQN pool. So 2 things here should be keep in mind that once you do the Iscsi pool, it's recommended that you have 2 different VLANs used for FI A side and FI B side. In this case, I just took X and Y. I would probably use 10 and 20 for the VLAN number. And you need a number of IP addresses as required number of servers. And on the IQN side, the prefix and suffix, you can see they all has to be lowercase. That's a kind of recommendation. So if you don't keep that, I have run into issues kind of seeing the Iscsi disk during boot. And prefix would be probably same. Suffix, you kind of differentiate that. You can put probably anything in your company, but just for simplicity, I just make fabric A and fabric B. Let's go to the UCS manager. I have UCS here, so I'll just go through the steps as I shown this this slide. So the Iscsi pool tab is in the LAN tab. I've created already one Iscsi A side, and I'll create a new one for Iscsi B side. And like any other pool, I prefer sequential just to have a predictability. Add the IP address. So 20 in this case, this is the B side, so I just keep 20 here. Okay. That is done. So next one is on the SAN tab, the IQN tab, IQN pool. I have already created one, IQN pool A. I'll just make a new one for IQN pool B. And in the suffix, I kind of created this one. So starting number 1, and we have 50 servers. So step 1 is done. Next, go to the next step. Its policies. This goes as part of the Cisco, UCS configuration and best practices. The policies and pools should be used as much as you can to exploit the benefits of service profile templates. So here, these 2 policies I would highly recommend to create this for Iscsi boot. Anyway, probably for any kind of deployment, these are normally used: a winning placement policy and the boot policy. Only in this case we'll have a boot policy which will have Iscsi Winix. Plus the VLANs, like you'll have to have the VLANs on the UCS FI plus upstream switch all the way to the Iscsi target. So I'm not going to create the VLAN in this demonstration. I'll just create the Winix placement policy and the boot policy. So I'm just creating everything, those policies under the server Cisco. So those who have worked with Cisco, you know that if you have two Winix, you use two vCons. In this case, we have got B200 M3 servers and one VIC 1247, your VIC card. So we'll just use one VIC connection. And the other one is your boot policy. So you can see at the bottom, there is Iscsi Winix. So all you have to do, put the Iscsi Winix name. So we'll have two paths, one to the A side, one to the B side. And for each side, there'll be multiple paths, two paths. So in total, there should be 4 paths. And then also, of course, you have your vMedia. Policy is done, the VLAN is configured. So the next step, step 3, we would create the Winix templates. Like here I'll go to kind of explanation to this. Like if you have a Windows server, probably your server guys need 2 Winix for any reason. Like so, if you make 2 Winix for Windows, then you have to make additional 2 Winix. Again, all Winix should come from template, so we'll create 2 Winix template for Iscsi. And unlike the Windows other Winix, it should be no fabric failover. Iscsi A should be only to the Iscsi A side, fabric A side. Iscsi B Winix template should be only to the B side. And a VLAN must be native. So these 2 things you have to keep in mind once you create the Winix templates for the Iscsi. And then once you've got this, Winix template, you have your VLAN, you have your policies and pools ready. We make a LAN connection policy. So once we create a LAN connection policy, we'll create required number of Winix. So just for example, for Windows Server, we have 2 Winix. First, I create those 2, and then we create the Iscsi Winix. These are the overlay Winix which Iscsi Winix will be your going through. So I'll show the process and a few points here to remember. Once you create an Iscsi Winix using the overlay Iscsi Winix, then you have to again use the Winix with native VLANs. Iscsi adapter policy is not set. MAC address assignment is not. Again, if you search Google that sample configuration for UCS Iscsi Boot, you'll see a lot of documentation on that. So let's go and create a Winix template and then your LAN connection policy. So we'll use 2 VLANs, VHS A and B. First, create the normal Winix. Say Windows Server, we have got 2 Winix. Fabric A, if it is a Windows server, Fabric failover is kind of recommended. Updating, and I'm not going to go all through this. This is kind of standard thing. So in this case, we'll just use backup one and empty use setting and other stuff. Mac Pool QoS. These are the standard UCS winning template configuration. Again, you can choose any site, main site. Prefer just keep the winnings on two separate sites. It can be a different winning in this case, and then MTU size and Mac Pools and other things you use as standard. Now we're going to make the Iscsi winning templates. So there is no Fabric failover, updating template, and I'll use that as a native. And MTU is 9000. Mac Pool QoS comes standard. Now, once you have the MTU 9000 here, you have to also enable the system QoS for MTU 9216. That's like Nexus 5500 or Nexus 7K. Similarly, FI Fabric Interconnect, which needs to be having the ability to pass the MTU size. So this is available here, QoS system class, and you can see the best effort, and it is 9216 is set up on that class. If you use different class, so you'll have to kind of configure the MTU on those class. But for this one, just best effort is used for Iscsi traffic. So let's make the next one. Fabric B, no failover, and rest same. So we just select the VLAN, B side, and native. MTU 9000. Okay, LAN winning template, our policies, our pools, everything is ready. Next step is LAN connection policy. I'm a big fan of this. This kind of puts all the winnings in one place. Once you create the searchable template, you just can pick it up and use it. You don't have to go through, creating all those winnings at that time. So let's make LAN. So as we said before, like first make the first two Ethernet winnings for that server. Create the template. Adapter policy is Windows. Template is one, and the adapter policy Windows. These are standard your winnings. So once you install the operating system will have these two winnings. So on top of that, we're going to create the overlay winnings now. You can name it as ETH3, ETH4, and then you can choose that you're creating the Iscsi. ETH2. Iscsi A. E3. Okay, I is missing, so does. On top of that, now we're going to create the actual Iscsi Linux on which the your server will boot from, and that's we mentioned on the boot policy. If you remember, I gave the name in Iscsi-A, and I didn't untick the box on the boot policy, enforce policy, so I'll have to have the same one. Overlay Winnick, create 2. Iscsi adapter policy, not set. VLAN, the VLAN we assign to the Iscsi, and MAC address not selected. So this should be the setup for the Iscsi Winnick on the A side, and on the B side same thing. Done. Our Iscsi your LAN connection policy is done. Once we have done that, step 3 is complete. Next, jump into the step 4. Okay, everything is ready for creating the service world template at this stage. Again, I'm trying to emphasize that whatever you do for other things like other policies, maintenance policies, and your LAN network control policies, you would probably configure all of them, MAC pools, UID. On top of that, you have to add this one for Iscsi Boot. Once we create a service world template, 2 things I'll probably configure for this Iscsi Boot. One is use the Winnick placement policy that we created on step 2 to put the Iscsi overlay Winnicks at the bottom of the list. A should be the last but one, and B should be the last one in the PCA order. In boot policy, we'll set the Iscsi boot parameters. What is the target address, how many targets you have, those kind of parameters, and also your IQ and pools. Those kind of things we'll have to put on the boot order, boot policy. Now, after that, the rest is pretty standard. I'm not going to demonstrate those things. Actually, create a service profile from the template and associate with the server. Once that is done, then you give the IQN numbers to the storage team, because that's what they need. They don't care about the IP addresses as long as the IP address initiator can reach the target, but it has to reach the target. And once you give them, they will give you the LANs. They'll do some magic on their side, and you will see the LANs on your side. So once the LAN assignment is completed, reboot the server, and you should be able to see that disk and go ahead and install the operating system as you do for any other. Now, there are multipathing here, like 4 paths, so you might have to take some kind of consideration. How do you address the multipathing in the operating system? It will be different from different operating system. LANs install the OS. Okay. After that, I've got a kind of few screens for the troubleshooting, but let's go back and create this service world template. Okay, for naming, I'm just keeping it updating templates. Always recommended use your UID pool, the one you have created. And this is a place actually all those hard work we made before will help us. So use the LAN connection policy and just select the LAN connection policy we created. Don't worry about the initiator name here. We're going to assign that later because we're using 2 pools for 2 initiator. We're not going to use any VHPA. It will be on IP based. No zoning involved here. You can do the zoning if you do a FC mode, FC switch mode. Here is the place we do the Winnick placement policy. So if you remember, this one is the place, and then use recon 1, and then this is the number 1, this is the number 2 on the PCA order. This is the Iscsi A overlay VNIC, number 3, and that's the last one. Rest is standard like for any other, and then you use the boot policy here, boot policy Iscsi, and here is all the work we have. If you remember, I mentioned the enforce VNIC PHP Iscsi name. Yes, so Iscsi VNIC-A has to match exactly. If you create that Iscsi VNIC, if you don't, tick that one, maybe uppercase, lowercase should be fine. So I'm providing the boot parameters now. So we have created the IQN pools. You're going to use it here, IQN A side, and then the initiator pool A, and then the target. Now, in this place, the information has to come from the storage team. On the same VLAN, they will have a target